Welcome to an episode of A Wiccan Reads the Bible. I was a former fundamentalist Christian way back from about 2001 to 2010. Tried to believe a couple years after that, but I slowly started deconstruction. I don't have a lot of hatred towards the Bible, or even towards people who believe in Christianity, or even towards my former church. I have an issue with the bigotry, and I have an issue with the way that they control the Bible. I don't believe the Bible is a text that we can say is literal. There is no literal translation because there's no way to have a literal translation of the Bible. Why? Because everybody has a different literal translation. Therefore, for me, I think it's figurative. I think it's a holy book among many. So by reading this, doing this Bible study, this deconstruction, this Wiccan Reads the Bible, I am hoping to reclaim the Bible and show that it isn't the weapon that it's been used as. That it can have some good. So we're looking today at Philippians 3:13 through 14. Brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forth unto those things which are before. I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. Now, when I was a fundy Christian, this verse was used frequently to talk about when you're saved, it's all wiped clean and you can move forward. And that's a great sentiment, but if you have past trauma or you have past pain, it isn't that easy. When I was dealing with a lot of depression, and now I know PTSD from childhood and from other parts of my life, and to be told that if I just say this prayer, I am saved and I'm forgiven and move forward, is very undermining to my own ability to heal and to work through. It is also undermining to the psychological influences that have advances of our world that are available to us to get help. I know that in my church, psychology overall was looked down upon as satanic almost, or of this world. It would not be helpful, and a lot of that was not because anything is wrong with it. Psychologists and therapists aren't all perfect. I've had bad ones. Fortunately, I have a lot of good ones. But in any organization, anything, there can be evil, there can be bad. But it's about... But the reason that they were against psychology, against mental health therapy, is because by participating in those, you begin to think for yourself and begin to understand and really know yourself. And this, by trying to forget what is behind, not only are you being forgiven of your past, so-called, and moving forward, but the next verse, moving forward. Forgetting what is behind and reaching forth, I press toward. Forgetting which is behind. A lot of the teachings were about forgetting what is behind, also being in the world, not part of the world. So being in the world was, well, there is a world out there that isn't Christian, isn't of our church, and we have the message. So it's very exclusive, but it's also very about keeping you within their worldview and keeping that control over you. And if you're a person like me that was raised not Christian and had a lot of beautiful friendships and still do after and even during that time period, to forget what is behind is very undermining to those dear friendships, to those dear memories you would have. For me, when I was part of that church, I did lose a sense of autonomy and a sense of connection with some of the most beautiful things that had been part of my life before the church. And it took, even inwardly, I lost the sense of my own identity while I was part of that church, because I was told to become kind of inclusive or exclusive within this worldview, that we were all one body. So it's almost like you're substituting your own self for the good of the whole. And I didn't even really know I was doing that. And I'm actually, as I'm speaking to you, I'm just realizing I did that. And so part of my deconstructing was slowly reclaiming myself, reclaiming who I am and what I like. And I think that this verse is a weapon, or has been a weapon, of forgetting your past, forgetting anything that was associated with you before you came and became involved with this Christian worldview. And this Christian worldview is a mainstream conservative church that is out there in the world today. So it's not like a cult or anything. It's just mainstream. And yet the tactics that I just talk about are what you would hear about in a more extreme cult. They just don't lock us in a basement and tell us we can't, and keep us from leaving physically. But they punish us when we mentally and emotionally do. So what's good about this? I think there is some benefits that we could say about forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth unto those things which are before. I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. With therapy and all that, and good work in myself, I'm not forgetting the past. I'm treasuring the past for what the lessons have taught me, but I'm not living there. I'm not staying there. I'm not stuck there. It has become a part of me. I've healed. I've forgiven myself, and I am moving forward to a better life for myself, to the upward calling of myself or of God, towards God, or whatever you want to say. So there is good and there is bad. The good is more maybe of a personal thing. Work through your past. If you have hurts and hang-ups, whatever, work through that. Heal it so you're not stuck there, so that you can forget, or you can move forward and push toward. But bad is the weapon that mainstream Christianity uses to keep you in their own little worldview, to say, forget all that. You're forgiven. Move forward with us. This has been an episode of A Wiccan Reads the Bible.